We good, dog? Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
We're here.
Oh, man.
We're here with the fucking Black Rifle Coffee fucking family, the founding family, the progenitors,
family.
the pater familiae of this whole thing. Why don't you guys like introduce yourselves real quick for the people who can kind of recognize voices? And
I love the
what's up.
founding family thing. That's
I
awesome.
love that.
I've never heard that before. I'll take it.
You have to have the bag.
It's better than
to
pater
talk.
familiae. I think that's,
Yeah.
I don't even know that's the Latin plural, but we'll go with it.
I'm going to go with that. Just say it's Latin.
Sounds
Just
right.
go with it. So I'm Evan Hafer. I guess I'm the first founder, kind of. Yeah, I started my
You
garage.
get the founder title.
I get the
we
founder.
get co-founder.
Yeah, so I started the company in my garage 5 years ago. I met up with these guys through a mutual friend while I was working for the CIA, which was the Central Intelligence Agency.
That's all redacted from
I work for Redacted, so
you
it's
work for
okay.
fucking Black Bar.
Well, a lot of people, they're like, oh, the Culinary Institute. No, nope, the other one. The more the
But how
more
is your
subject
cooking
matter.
game?
It can get better. It really can. Like, I think that's just an art that you have to curate over the course of a lifetime. That's the way I look at it.
What a thoughtful way to look at it.
I think you have to, right? There's some things
course.
you're like, you spend your life diving down the rabbit hole and trying to
course.
develop.
No.
You can never master level. I think you're kind of saying, I know enough that I have to continue to learn.
But
right?
if you have a grill and you have some meat, people eat it.
They do. Matt is
I
an
eat
incredible
Evan's
grill.
meat all the time. It's one of my favorite
I'm
things to do.
introducing Matt.
And Matt Best over here.
Over here.
Yes, Matt Best is my name, and I'm a co-founder of Black Rifle, and I do a bunch of other crazy stuff. I've been known for blowing things up on YouTube, making some terrible skits, and I authored a book that's coming out very soon. Thank you for my service. And I'm just stoked to be at the Onnit facility, man. I love you guys. I'm so happy. I know we'll announce it after, but just joint ventures together. Like, I love your company. It's so fucking cool. And that's my thing in business. How do I align myself with people that are epic and awesome and then do work with them? Because that's like the best of both worlds.
I'm fucking with you 100%. I think that was like initially we got together and just had fun talking on Drinking Bros podcast.
Yeah.
And then eventually we're like, we should do something. Because like the alignment towards fun and doing awesome shit was strong.
Yeah,
Like that was strong. And so then eventually we figured it out. We got the Fuck Yeah Coffee, the MCT Mocha. We'll talk some more about that.
I could not be more excited about this because of the content stuff that's going to come with it.
Yeah,
Like,
you guys are taking that to another
this
level.
This is gonna be our.
So that's Jared Taylor, who never introduces himself.
there
He's
he is.
already thinking about creative
Hi
ideas.
guys, I'm JT. I've been hanging out with these guys for a long time. Was in the military for almost 15 years, which as I think about my military service now, I kind of think I was just put there to like as a project for the first sergeants.
Probably.
Would that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I can see
I wasn't
that.
like the best TAC P or the best JTAC or the best instructor, but I definitely kept them all on their toes consistently.
I had a friend reach out from my redacted contracting days that said, there's one thing to know about Matt when he worked with me. And I was like, uh-oh. And he goes, he would make the whole entire day fun. And I was like, I'll take that. That's a fucking win.
It's a great compliment.
Yeah,
Especially
keep it
when
fun.
you're in like some shitty spots.
Yeah, you're living in a shitty little place and it's hot as balls and you eating the same chow every day. Might as well
You
laugh your way
always had
through
that
it.
guy too. Like
course,
where
yeah.
like when you started looking at your deployment roster, you're like, please God, you know, he's not the best, but he's gonna make this one fun.
Might be slightly incompetent,
Yeah.
but you know what? I'll take that. I'll take
It's
that.
like, we might get me killed in a gunfight, but if we don't get in a gunfight,
Yeah.
it's going to be
You're
super
really
fun.
good.
Listen, Linda. I got the plan. Just come to Burning Man, and then when it gets shitty, you'll make it good. And then when it's good, we'll just do drugs, and it'll be even better. It's fucking better than military service. That's the fucking plan.
I love that.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. It's the same kind of desert. It's not enough water. You know, you're exhausted. You're not sleeping much. It's just you're doing it.
It's the
to
same
party,
thing.
I'm
And there's
terrified
naked
of Burning
girls
Man.
everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's
That
great.
sounds way better than war. That
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
better
It
than
is.
war.
I think there would be less war if people could just go there and just chill out and be like, "Oh wow, life is kind of dope."
I'm
Yeah.
personally convinced why northern Iraq, like Kurdistan and those areas, is so nice is because the women that walk around in their tight jeans and heels, I mean, they put some American girls
talking
to
about
shame. Yeah, Dahuk too. Like, that's why the region's so nice up there, because you're like, people are like, it's a Middle Eastern country. You start driving around, you're like, yo, those kebabs look fucking amazing. And who is that girl with the plump, you know? And it's a good culture up there. I'm a fan.
Well, I mean,
Huge fan.
I think they're about to start Burning Man 2 here in September. Have you been following this?
Burning Man 2? What are you
Well,
talking
you've got over 3.5 million people that said they're going to storm Area 51.
Oh, that's right. That thing.
they're up.
Rogan kind of fucking.
It is climbing every day, and now now I don't
was
even.
he the tipping point on that? I guess I'm
someone
not
on a
following.
show, I think.
Bob Lazar.
Yeah,
So Bob
Yeah.
Lazar released a documentary and then went on Joe's show. And Joe's obviously got like 300 million downloads a month or some fucking bonkers thing. And it just started this trend where with the documentary and with
some
that, everybody
kid in
galvanized.
Florida, and when you see a picture of this guy, you'll understand it all. He's wearing like a Goku costume or something. He started the Storm Area.
Is that
51.
Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah.
Okay. I got it.
Like Storm Area 51 Facebook event and group on September 20th. And within 5 days, 3.5 million people going to the event. There's 700,000 inside the group. Like, it's, I don't think they know what to do with it.
I'm going to bet the don't side of it working. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bet that it's not a sheer numbers thing where they're just going to be able to, they're just going to let them in to see the aliens.
I mean, you're talking 100 miles on foot just to get to the first gate in the desert.
And then what are you going to do when
who's
you're at the gate?
My buddy said it best, and he's been an operator for 16 years, and he goes, motherfucker, I almost died on a 4K movement out there, and I do this for a living. They think they're coming out here.
That, or what they need to do is Burning Man 2, what you said, just go to the outer fence where it's legal and then just throw a huge alien sex party out there.
That's what they're
draw the aliens out.
Somebody
The
is
aliens
trying
won't
to
be
turn
able to
it into
resist.
that.
Now we're onto it because you do like alien calls, they're going to come out and they're going to be like, yo,
It'd be
pass
like
the
duck
shrooms.
calls.
Yeah,
Let's
has anybody
go.
hit a Duck Commander yet? Like maybe they can make
They need to fucking figure out the alien. Although, if you look at most alien sketches, which may not be true or not, they pretty much don't have genitals.
I just want to douse myself in female alien.
But they
piss.
have mouths.
They do have mouths.
Maybe that's where they don't want us to meet aliens because they only give sex. They don't receive it. And so they're just this like euphoric being that is a pleasure.
They just freeze you and jump on your cock. And that's the only thing
fantasy,
that's
Aubrey.
mobilized is your dick. You're like, ah!
They have some weird, like, different, sound level that humans can't make. So it's like the coolest Hummer ever. Okay, I'm going really dark with this.
I like the fact that Matt found the loophole in alien sex based on a lack of genitalia. I don't know.
Well, they got mouths.
Well, they got mouths. Okay.
All I need is about 6 inches in and I'm a good man.
But how do you know if you're gay? If you're having...
If they don't have genitals, doesn't matter. Non-binary.
Yeah, it's true non-binary.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that's where they're truly an enlightened life form because they can't define themselves or gay or straight. So there is no
Doesn't
They don't
contact.
have to worry about pronouns.
They've never
They don't
had
have to worry
There's no
about
social
gender.
constraints or judgment.
no.
You're just a being a being. I
They
would say
figured
human,
out
but-
super early on, that marriage was a bad idea. They abolished it.
I'm like, let's just have alien non-binary sex parties.
I mean, so many, if they all look alike too. I mean, so many of the fucking things are just kind of different.
Yeah.
Like everybody kind of looks the same. Like,
Well, to us, right? But I feel that within that alien culture, there's different aspects of their aesthetics that are more attractive and less attractive. Probably the shape of their eyes. Maybe they're a little whiter. That's attractive, right? That might be a blonde. There's so many
I
semantics
think
with this.
we would find the same thing. If dogs could draw, how would they draw us, for instance? It'd be like just this guy that gives me food. They all look kind of the same. I don't
They
know.
do, but that's why beards and hats scare dogs because it's not normal. They're
right.
like, what is
Not
that?
Yeah, but
Animal.
what if the aliens could make themselves self-levitate and then rotate?
on their non-genitals, though. So
No, but
they're
they're using their mouths.
So
and
they're
now
just
there's
like
Okay,
face
listen.
down, feet in the air.
Think about it. The alien is the rotor blades. You're the Black Hawk helicopter.
oh my God.
Let's go flying.
It sounds risky. I don't know. Do they eat? Do they have teeth? Or maybe their whole mouths are designed with no dental impediments at all for maximization of blowjobbing.
100%, because if you look at them, I'm sure they don't eat condensed food. This is some form of like absorption topical on their skin. They've come up with some cool stuff.
Yeah,
So they don't
they have a
teeth.
chip.
Sunlight
They
and shit.
just teleport what's in their stomach to the waist area. So they don't That's why they don't have anything down here. You know, it's just it's on a teleporting.
I think we pretty much figured out aliens. Right?
Yeah. And this is 100% fact, guys.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
We just talked to you about alien sex lives here. We know this shit.
We grossly overestimated our understanding of alien anatomy for roughly 5 minutes. Totally fine.
So that happens when you drink Fuck Yeah Coffee. I'm like amped up.
Is that what this is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
Oh,
There's some right there.
Yeah, you got to get some of that loaded with caffeine crystals.
Really?
It's fucking rad. Yeah, rad innovation. So yeah, that's what we collabed on. We collabed on some coffee,
And it is a cool bag. Your design team knocked it out of the park. I
all
think
90s style.
I venture to say that is the first mock-up probably ever that has gone through the branding department that I've said, I don't know if we need to touch that. Because normally I'm like, oh my God, hey, great design, guys. Go ahead and send it over to my design team, and then Evan and I will square it. But it was fuck yeah, man. It's cool.
Yeah, that's why I think one of the reasons we wanted to work together is because we've basically founded our companies on cool shit first.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh yeah, business. Let's
CSF.
do that.
yeah.
That's our motto.
gotta make some money somewhere along the line.
yeah, for sure.
Hey guys, what's your margins?
Yeah,
Margins?
margins.
What's that mean? Margins?
Private equity means, yeah, that's right. That's what it means.
Yeah, the blimp, it's a marketing expense.
So tell us, I want to hear some of that story because we got a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, a lot of people interested in that. I mean, basically all you guys unified by all of you being in the service, all of you guys wanting to support your service members, also the Drinking Bros community, how that kind of attached and how this whole thing fucking came together and made this monster that you guys have now. It's a beautiful monster.
Well, I can start and then we can kind of add in. I think a lot of us were in the same position in life. Matt and I were really close in the sense of he was contracting, I was contracting, meaning contracting for the Central Intelligence Agency. It is redacted, right? But I can say that. I can say whatever I want.
You were in the culinary.
Yeah,
I was in the Culinary Institute
of America.
Afghanistan.
Culinary Institute of Afghanistan.
I was
seed
I had
muffins.
been roasting coffee back and forth between deployments because there was literally no place overseas where you could get a great cup of coffee. Being a coffee head, it's like, I'm going to have to figure this out. So I bought a little roaster, started roasting coffee in between rotations to Iraq at that time. And a lot of people, they've asked me, what year was that? I'm like, man, Iraq just feels like one long deployment for me, literally from like 2004 to 2009. The only way I can differentiate it is based on city. I can't really differentiate by the time. So I would say it's 2006 around there because I was working roughly the same cities. And so I started roasting coffee. I wanted to get this like awesome coffee and take it overseas so I could do this pour overs and all this, what everybody made fun of me. It's weird hipster shit out here with your pour overs. And around
the best way to make coffee.
It is.
Arguably. Yeah.
And because you can replicate it, you can measure your weights, you can roast it to a specific level, you can have your specific coffee water temperature, everything's the same, right? So you can replicate everything and you don't need an espresso machine, you don't need any of these other things that you'd have to pack with technology and power and all these other things. So I could literally bust out a jet boil and get the same cup of coffee I was drinking in the mountains of like Colorado or Idaho and get it in Kirkuk or Mosul.
Did you just have mad people like just kind of hanging out like, hey man, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, hey, just wanted to see on it. Oh, you got some coffee.
Hey.
I decided to swing by at 6:30 in the morning and see what you're up to.
What you're doing there, little guy.
Oh man. Yeah, it was me and another friend of mine, this guy V Diamond, he's a former SEAL. And he and I had these little like coffee shops set up that we would build out. We had everything that you could imagine, to include a coincidence between Matt and myself, as I'd convinced a guy overseas in one of the bases I was working in, the guy who was managing it, to order this L'Armazzocco Linea 3 from Italy, a 3-group espresso machine. It was way overpriced, but he's like, hey, so I need some coffee equipment for the base. What do you suggest, Evan? And I was like, I'll create you a list,
This
sir.
is the one you need right here.
This is the only thing that
We're
works out
spending
here.
their government dollars. We need the Italian L'Armazzocco.
And you fast forward a few years, I was teaching at a range, and one of Matt's friends came up to me and was like, dude, my buddy and you, I guarantee would get along. You guys have this really wild sense of humor. And I was instructing. So part of that is like performance art. You have to keep people engaged. You have to keep them laughing. If you don't, it's just this really dry bit of information. Nobody really has any fun. They're just kind of like, okay, let me get through this. And mutual friend of ours said, hey, this is my buddy Matt. I reached out to JT. I was starting another company, looking to transition around that time. And that's how I got connected to everybody. I spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours on the phone with JT straight away.
I was in the parking lot of my squadron because I was still active duty. So I had walked out and sat in my car and called him the first time. And we were laughing within the first 4 minutes.
Which you fast forward, and I didn't know this. So when I worked at that same base that Evan was talking about where he got the espresso machine, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, who the fuck bought this? This thing is like $50,000. And then I'm telling this story about how ridiculous our espresso machine to Evan is years later after we'd become friends. He goes, yeah, it was me that got that. You know, I'm like, you son of a bitch. It was hilarious that we had that kind of like offset interaction between each other and we didn't even know each other. So
that was just the gem at that base.
Yeah.
Like everybody protected it.
It was. I would be making lattes and things like that, and I would have no problem. Guys would line up and I'd be jamming out some lattes. And once we connected,
it was like 3 weeks later, I flew to Salt Lake. I just walked past your old house a couple days ago in Park City where we came up with outdoor magic on the porch.
Yeah. One of our first designs and essentially what this was just all of us are really, when we look at each other, when we spend time with each other, we really like each other. I think that's kind of the foundation of it. Yep. Trust each other, make each other laugh. And we're all a little bit crazy in our own way. And we really don't give a shit. Like we'll send it. So for us, I think living in combat zones, when I say that, it taught us a lot. And one of the greatest things about that, and a gift for me, was if you live a life in fear, it really does keep you in a prison of your own kind of, when I say that, your own restraints, basically.
And that you don't have to be in a combat zone to live a life in fear where you're in your own prison of fear. That could be anybody in any life, in any situation, whether that's fear in your relationship or fear of what people think or fear of what social media is going to think or fear that you put on yourself about what makes you a man or a woman or a success or a good husband, father, whatever these things are. These are all prisons that we can create that'll keep us locked up.
Well, that's why when we first met Evan, I was so intrigued by it because, like you're saying, there's all those self-prescribed constraints. Like you convince yourself you can't do this, or I can't post that because the business world says that's too edgy. And prior to meeting Evan, Jared and I were doing all this crazy comedy stuff and kind of carved out a market share of the military community that wanted these really locker room, team room jokes that no one else did before in the military because everybody's like, no, you got to be a hard ass. You got to beat your chest. I'm like, but that's not the way it is overseas. Like you come back from an operation and, Andy Stump said it really best. It's kind of funny when your friends almost die, and you make light of that after because you have to. It's humor through horror. And when we started building all this content and Evan came and said, hey, and we had an apparel company as well. It's like, I want to roast coffee with you guys. I'm like, well, what if we do a vehicle interdiction and we shoot the Grinch in the face? He's like, yes, that's awesome. So we immediately just said, fuck it. Let's just put out the content we want to consume. Let's put out the quality of product we want to consume. And that's really been our mission since all of this was let's focus on quality and what we like. And for some reason, that's resonated so well within our community. And that's another part of that.
We're our first customers.
Yeah, well, it's true. It's authentic. And that's the thing. Like you guys peel back the layers of what your company stands for. It's just more of the same thing, right? It's not like you're projecting an image. And that's the same here with me and Onnit. Like you peel back the layers, what do you get? You get more Onnit. You peel back the layers of this Black Rifle team. It's more Black Rifle. It's the same fucking humor. It's the same desire to send it. It's all of that. That's real. And when someone projects that hard ass mentality, right? And everybody who's actually in the service knows, like, yeah, we all know we're hard asses. We don't need
you have to be.
When we have to be. We don't have to show it. What we need to do is fucking laugh. Yep. It's like the same time when I was first getting into MMA and I would go into a locker room, like, and be back there with someone. I thought like I had to like pump them up and stuff. Like, no, man, you got to make them laugh. Like they're already fucking stressed out enough.
Yeah.
You know, they got to fight in front of fucking thousands of people.
Probably 5 people for that sole reason. I'm like, but I'm not the best dude to corner you. Like, no, I just need this, like the humor and the lightness that you bring with yourself, because I'm about to go get punched in the face by another fucking grown man.
Yeah.
So,
and like, if you leave that cortisol level at max the whole time, you're going to be fucking exhausted by the time you get in there. You're going to be exhausted when you actually have to rely on those chemicals to help fuel you through. So you got to unload, you got to release that.
For sure.
And like, that's the truth. So if you guys are projecting the truth, everybody who's actually walked that truth is going to be like, oh, thank God. You know, people aren't trying to pretend like this is all serious. They're like, they actually know what's up.
And I think there's a lot of parallels between Onnit culture and Black Rifles, because something we take pride in is that sense of community. You know, when I got out of the military, I was completely lost. I had no military friends. I went to Los Angeles. No one understood me. I was just 22 years old, was just like fast roping out of helicopters 2 months before on a deployment, shooting people in the face. And then I'm in Los Angeles. And I'm like, hey guys, like, right? And they're like, dude, you're fucking crazy. Yeah. And so that's why we've kind of tried to support, like, it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be a little nutty. It's actually, life is way more fun when you accept that's how you are and engage with like-minded people. And I think with Drinking Bros and, you know, Black Rifle Coffee specifically, building that sense of community and allowing people to, civilians have to assimilate back into the military culture with our company rather than vice versa, where guys are getting out, having to go to some absolute PC culture where if they say shit by accident, they're going to get fucking fired. Like, no, man, as long as you're not hateful and it's not violence, like, dude, you can be who you are. That's the brilliance of America. We're diverse, we're fun. Like, fucking accept it and own it.
Yeah. I think that's
and
exactly
own the day, Aubrey.
Own your life. Own the day, own your life. Where did Drinking Bros come in? How did that piece of the puzzle come in?
What happened is our first year with our clothing brand, we had bought an iPad for our office because we shared an office where we were back to back. And in the evenings, we would publish the Skype for like an hour and let anybody Skype in and talk to us. And that was like massive for them. Like, we would see people come back to Instagram and things like that. Like, oh my God, I just got to Skype with these guys. This was so crazy.
And was that under the Black Rifle name, or was that Drinking Bros?
That was the clothing. So Art 15 clothing.
Okay.
And that's when we had come up with this, like, okay, well, let's start a Facebook group, like right when
the majority
started coming out.
The majority of the people, their takeaway was like, fuck, man, I wish I had friends like you where I lived.
Yeah.
And that's when Jared was like, fuck it, let's create that group. Like, let's do it. Yeah. You can be our friends.
So the group within about 40 days grew to over 25,000 people. And then that's when they started doing their own chapters. You know, it started out with Texas first. I believe San Antonio was the first chapter, Drinking Bros chapter. And now we're at 280 of them. And every major city you go into, there's a Drinking Bros, and it has at least 1,000 to 3,000 people in there that you could at any moment in time go, I'm going to this bar, and 5 of them will show up. Like,
yeah, I mean, a community is such an important thing, but it's even as important as we know it is, it's super underrated still. Yeah. Like, feeling that sense of community. I mean, all of you guys, everybody who I've talked to who's been in the military, been in service, like, the thing they miss the most is like having a team, you know, having your people, your tribe, you know, and then you get out and you're like, I got some buddies, but it's like not the same shit, you know? So like, the more you can foster that sense of community, then the more people are going to feel
well, like, especially in the age of technology, in my opinion, because it's like we have all these fake relationships with followers on Instagram and all of that. And like, being actually like able to interact, like interpersonal communication, and have amazing friendships and relationships, that's what matters the most. Not, you know, buddies here and there. That's all great and awesome, but having that really defined sense of community where you know you have a support system. It's the reason, like, these guys helped save my life through the company. And back in the day, I had friends pick me out of my slums, because sometimes you need a little pickup, you know, and you need those people to be there for you.
Mm-hmm. It's cool because we see almost every day some of these guys write these stories and stuff like that. And our brands have almost become this secret handshake of people that are like-minded. So we see them right every day. Oh, I saw this guy with a Black Rifle shirt in the airport, and I went up to him, and now, no, this guy's awesome. So it's these. Yeah.
Well, Rogan he sent me a DM the other day, 3 days ago. He was in Italy. He was like, running a Black Rifle everywhere, and he was getting coffee in Italy, and there's a guy in front of him wearing a shirt. And
was he getting coffee from that fancy ass espresso machine?
There isn't an Italian espresso machine, but it is one of those things where people DM us all the time, and it's almost like they're in a secret club. It's not sold in grocery stores. It's one of those things where if you watch videos or seen a Black Rifle video, if you're a fan, our Uber driver was a former Marine. He knew exactly who we were. It unites and it transcends just a product that people are trying to monetize through. It's a community of people that are into something bigger. And that's in our mission statement. It's like we supply content and coffee to people that love America. Really, it's American ideals of freedom, right? When we talk about being free and Matt talks about individual expression or identity, it's okay if you're got bigger biceps and tats everywhere. That doesn't mean that you're an asshole.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you're an
It only means
aggressive.
you're an asshole if you're an asshole.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But stereotyping people, bucketing them, and then giving them some kind of broad assumption based on what they look, that's where we start to make these mistakes. And with our company, people have said all kinds of different things, I'm sure that they have about your company too, and in negative and positive, but they make these weird assumptions about us as people. We're like, you guys love firearms, you guys love this. And it's like, no, we do. We like to shoot, but we just love living a free life. Mm-hmm. And America is a fantastic place to do that because we've been to a lot of other countries where it's definitely not the same.
No.
And
it's getting freer.
Yes.
Like as people always love to point out how shitty things are. It's like, nah, not really. Like weed's almost legal nationwide.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, everybody. Throwing someone in a cage because they want to smoke a plant that makes them feel relaxed and food tastes better.
Right.
And like they're more chill. Like, no, don't put people in cages for that.
Dude, I'm a huge proponent for that, even
wrong.
with, veterans and post-traumatic stress and all other stuff and the medical benefits of it. It's just like, let's go America on that side.
We're late to the, that was a decision that was made in 1921 that one was okay and one wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, we've progressed enough to go, hey, maybe those decisions weren't the best.
Like the last 100 years would have been way more fun if everyone was high, guys. Let's go ahead and point that out. No, and I think to Evan's point as well, something that I really enjoy about working with everyone is that the veteran community for a long time, I think, was very ostracized in the sense of civilians didn't understand it. And like everybody that comes back from war is fucked up, right? That's what we're branded as. And like, we want to take a stand against that, saying, no, like you can have 5 deployments in a Ranger battalion. You can be a Green Beret. You can go work out in other capacities over in war zones and come back and be fucking just fine for the most part. And we can succeed post-war in business, entrepreneurship, art, whatever you want to do. So don't fucking label us that way because we're not that way.
Yeah.
And I think us creating this company and having that inspiration for others is the most meaningful thing I've ever done in my whole entire life. And I'm just thankful that people support it and they see the mission statement.
It's huge when you actually get to know the truth, like any of these labels or ideas that you have about, a type of person, then you actually get to meet those people. And yeah, of course, there's like anomalies within any group there's going to be an asshole there. But like people would assume that MMA fighters, pro MMA fighters are really aggressive and they're the last person that's going to start a fight in a bar. Right. But, they do have a switch that if someone pushes a little too hard, they may end up in a pile. But nonetheless, like for the most part, they're the most gentle people. And like Tim Kennedy, who's, I've been around here, works out at Onnit all the time. Like, he gives like the biggest hug and kisses me on the cheek like a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's like done some of the most savage stuff and like
frolicking in the weeds, singing Sound of Music.
Small little factoid.
Sound of Music, yeah.
Tim Kennedy and I, 3 years ago, reenacted the Notebook scene together.
Yeah.
The rain scene, and I wrote him, every day for 365 days in the rain. We ran up. Yeah, it was amazing. Special.
It is special.
But don't play gay chicken with a SF guy because they don't back down. I learned that the hard way.
Well, you also learned that with a Marine too. So
yeah. So I stopped.
Seems like
I guess they just wanted to kiss a dude. I don't know.
That's gay chicken. Is you should get how close you can get.
It's like a thing in the military, like, all right, dude, you're gay. Who's gonna ungay first? And you're like, what? This is so. If you guys just want to go sleep with each other, go do it. Like,
I'm gay. I think that's another one of the things too. Like I'm homies with Jason Ellis. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah.
Pro skateboarder,
awesome
fighter. Fucking amazing human. And he came out and talks about his bisexuality. And like so many people, I had him on my podcast. So many people were like, yeah, I guess that's cool too. Like, yeah, all of these things that we thought were like, we had to ostracize this group or ostracize this group. Like, I like Jason Ellis. He's a fucking good dude.
2019, everybody's tolerant.
Yeah, like
now.
everybody's like, it's all good.
My statement with that is there's no racism, prejudice, or bigotry in a firefight. If you're on the fucking team, you're on the team. I don't care if you're gay, straight, bi, purple, yellow. If you're shooting back at the enemy, roger that, you're on my team. And I think that's the way a lot of us look at life. I'm not going to label anybody else. That's how I look at life. I'm like, man, just like be a free spirit, but I'm always mission oriented. Like, let's get the fucking objective done. And I don't care what your preferences are as long as you're on the team, you know?
And that's, I think, where military, understanding that when you're a mission-oriented person and you're always moving towards the mission and the people to your left and right, there is really no room for bigotry because ultimately you're all there to accomplish the same goal, which is typically going to be something you would look at and say, that's impossible. Well, you need everybody, you need the best and the brightest on your team in order to accomplish said mission. So that washes so early on. And one of the beautiful things I think that people don't quite understand about the military is you'll show up. I showed up at Fort Benning, Georgia in 1995 from Northern Idaho. There wasn't a lot of diversity up there. And you don't come with any prejudice, but you definitely don't leave with any either, because when you show up, you're like, man, I've got, 10 African Americans, 3 guys from Detroit and 4 guys from San Francisco, and everybody's from, rural and urban communities. It's this really interesting melting pot. And you shave your head, you put on a uniform, you don't know what that person looked like before they showed up.
Mm-hmm.
The day that you get leave.
Yeah, and you see how people dress. Mind fuck.
Then you're like, and you're all going to go out somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you go out, the cowboy is standing next to the guy that grew up in Detroit.
Yeah.
That's got, baggy pants and a chain, and they're best friends.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. It's one of the most hilarious social experiments you could do, because I was the same thing when I graduated RIP to become a Ranger. I'm friends with all these dudes, and we went out for a beer after, and one of them was like emo hair, eyeliner, black, and I'm like, oh, and then immediately you start making assumptions. Okay, so is this guy? And I'm like, oh, hey, dude, I've liked this guy for the last 4 weeks. He's kick ass. So it's very interesting to see that. And it'd be cool to have a place like a bar that you just everybody went and had to wear like jeans and a white t-shirt. Yeah, and then you get to see what they are after, because when you take that away, that aesthetic and that vanity, it's very interesting to gauge people more just on the character and their personality.
Maybe that's what the aliens were fucking thinking.
Right?
We were just you were talking about this bar on the way here.
I was. Maybe I just want to put
the bar called Hookups.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah. Probably filled with dudes,
if you go there, you're down.
That's a gay bar for sure.
That exists.
Because I started putting, I'm like, man, I don't think it'll be full of chicks. They'll just,
Just promote it with your shirt off.
I think it exists in West Hollywood somewhere.
It'll be great. The idea, though, that like when you're mission oriented and you're working towards something, I think that's the appeal of a movie like Independence Day, right? Like where there's a global threat, and then everybody's like, fuck all of this nationalist kind of prejudice that we've had. Like, we got aliens to worry about. We're all going to come together. We're all on the same team. And I think we almost need something like that to really become team people, team Earth. Like we need some cause, and I think it will probably come environmental.
I'm more worried that we're going to see the situation that happens in Arrival, where instead we have something like that happen, and instead of us coming together, one of us nukes the aliens first and fucks us all over. Because in the movie Arrival, it was China was just like, fuck everybody else, we're bombing these guys, and they about caused the world destruction because they were just like, fuck it.
Well, right. If you look at it, I think that's one of the most challenging things facing American culture. How do we have the unity of September 12th without the tragedy of September 11th? That's the hard
question.
one. That's the question, right?
And can we have it without tragedy? Is it possible?
Is it? Doubtful. And that's the hard question. Yeah. And I think it's human nature and condition to focus on the small shit when there is no big shit. And you see it everywhere, because people that have a lot of worldly and life experience, they tend not to sweat the small shit. You're like, fuck it, broke the glass, it is what it is, we'll get a new one. But then the people that's their whole world, that glass means the most to them. And I don't know how to change that. I think it's perspective and experience, but you can't force people into perspective or experience. They have to live it even if they don't want to. And tragedy tends to do that, unfortunately.
Well, we're down a slippery slope right now with just the way social media and the media is in general. Like, you don't even have to be reporting facts anymore. Like, people, they're not even posting reactions anymore.
They're just pandering to the basest instinct of tribalism anyways, right?
Yeah.
Like left, right, tribal. But yeah, I mean, I think that, and you look at a book like Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe, right? And where he's talking about even during the times when the Nazis were bombing London, and like the Londoners there recount those times as some of the happiest times because everybody was family.
Right.
Like if you had a sandwich, that person starving next to you had half a sandwich. Like everybody was just like, no, this shit is gnarly. Like we're all in this together. And that sense of purpose, through the horror of the experience was also some of the most fulfilling. And I think in the absence of this, it's a point that Mark Manson makes in his book, Everything is Fuck. Like we've removed all of these really big external challenges. So now we make the trivial the challenge. We get so worried about our political party or all of these different inconsequential bullshit because we need some purpose. We need something that we can like sink our teeth into. And so like the only thing I can think of is, people are all worried about the environment, and I think they should be, but I think actually like if we're going to really care about the environment, like it's got to get worse.
Yeah.
Almost before people are like, okay.
Yeah,
sure.
when now we starts becoming a problem,
then we're like, okay, stop.
Of the list.
Yeah. It's like that's fucking, or the asteroids coming, and it's like Armageddon.
No,
It's like, fuck, we got to do something.
I think about that all the time. I think about this unified nationalism and how important it is in some aspects, but how negative it is in all these other aspects. And you're exactly right. I'm like, man, I was thinking about this, the environment and the way that we're trending in the environment. Something is going to happen for everybody to go, hey, you know what? And what it was a political discourse between two people, and one was essentially pro-pollution and the other one was, non-pro-pollution, right? I'm like, nobody should be pro-pollution, dude. Like, this is air we're breathing, right? Like, does it make me a
basic
liberal?
necessity
But
for
does it make me a liberal to be like, dude, I want clean air for my kids? Like, this is crazy, right? Can we just like dial it back a little bit and go?
If you look at the general political climate, and this is what's laughable, is what's the two biggest fucking items right now that everybody want to talk about? Abortion and immigration. But how much does abortion and immigration affect your day-to-day life ever? Like, does it? Like,
well, let's not talk about how maybe one of those might have affected our lives.
Yeah, guess what affects our lives every day? Traffic. Maybe if a candidate came out and said, you know what? I'm going ham on the highways, guys. I'm just going to make traffic less. I'd be like, hey, I'm voting for that guy. Like,
that's Lord Hot Dogs.
I could actually,
campaign strategy, ham on the highways.
Yeah, ham on the highways.
Too damn high.
Hey, you know what? I'd love to fix the transportation industry and the systems. We need clean air. We need to be able to.
Oh, wait.
But wait, how does this fall into a party perspective? And then why are you anti just because this is an idea? It makes zero sense to me. Like, where are we following in Western logic, and where we've just kind of scattered our ability to put things together in a fairly logical sequence and just said, you know what? I'm conservative. Coal, let's burn it all up. You know what? Let's mine more coal.
Burn it while we got it.
Burn it all. It's like, dude, that doesn't make sense.
When you start to become more aware, you realize like the Earth has a cataclysmic history. There's been shit that's happened throughout Earth's history all the time, whether it's a meteorite or whether it's a flood or the meteorite that caused the flood or whatever the fuck has happened, or the volcano, the super volcano that blows, and it's fucking dark that's why they called it the Dark Ages, because it was actually literally dark because there was cloud cover from from a volcano that exploded or something like that. I got to check my resources on that. Yeah, I think that was a little earlier.
That's right.
But nonetheless, like these cataclysmic events are happening constantly. And then we got all these nuclear reactors that are all over the place, that if a cataclysm like the tsunami in Japan hits one of these nuclear reactors, then things get like quadruple fucked.
Right.
And so like maybe let's just pay attention so that we can kind of survive the next thing that the Earth's gonna inevitably throw at us, because it always does. How about we focus on that political party called Let's Not All Die?
That's the way I live my life. Like, don't sweat the small shit, because a meteor could come tomorrow and just fucking knock us off this planet. So you might as well laugh a little bit, engage in awesome relationships. Like
No, because we're super concerned with third world dictator that their economy has the size of like some small American state because of ego. I think a lot of this stuff comes into ego, and obviously there's geopolitical things that happen every day that are more complex, but they don't have to be as complex. Then you're just having this as a personal slight and a personal vendetta against somebody that ultimately you can control relatively easily. Right. But if they're not on the same sheet of music, which is team let's all live, that's kind of a deciding factor. Like, yeah, you want to blow a bunch of people up. That's probably not a good thing for the human race. We should probably dial it back. It's not, when we really dive down and we start thinking about it, it's not that complex, but it's human nature that prevents these things from being instituted. And then when you start really ripping it apart, you're like, oh God, this is where it starts getting really complicated. I mean, I think about it on probably every day where it's a meteorite or a volcano, especially with two little girls. I'm like, what type of a planet are we living in? What type of a state or a nation? What do I want? What kind of an impact do I want to leave with them? And the real value that I keep coming back to is the only thing I can do is I can love my children as much as I can. I can love my wife. I can build an institution built around love and passion. This is the impact, like right here. You know, it's within arm's distance. And these two guys right here, they're the people that I love. Mm-hmm. They fulfill me. They make me happy. That's it. But it has to start there with the emphasis and the mission, for me at least, focusing on that. Things start to snap in line relatively easily because you have more fun, you focus on the things that matter, and everything else becomes white noise. But that's essentially it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously the right mindset, right? Like, no matter what, let's work on what we can work on,
right?
And we could probably all try a little bit better on the Let's All Live kind of overall mission campaign. For sure.
Yeah.
We could probably all do a little bit more, but nonetheless,
I drive the Ford Raptor.
Let's all live and let's all make our lives a little bit better.
Let's all live individually and collectively. Let's, instead of being, like you said, trapped in these prisons of our own delusions and fears and biases and stigmas and all that, let's just be free, live, love each other while we're here at least. So at the very least, if this thing goes up in a fireball, we can look back and say, like, Earth, like, yeah, a lot of us really lived that motherfucker. Like, we played that level in fucking Sega Genesis Earth.
Hell yeah.
This is why I think Elon Musk is going to become the world's first supervillain. Because he keeps giving us answers to a lot of big problems, like his traffic thing. Like, hey, I developed a tunnel system that's essentially incrushable, and we could build 30 goddamn highways below each other in LA. And they're like, yeah, Elon, good try. And he's just eventually going to be like, fuck you, I'm going to build a weapon.
Yeah. I'm going to put you all in the same sheet of music.
Yeah. It's time to take some of you back.
that is the theme of all the supervillains, though, right?
Well,
all the supervillains are like...
And he's tried. He's developed, the advances in solar technology and the stuff for all the houses and things like that. And then the freeway and traffic stuff and electric cars. Eventually, he's going to get fed up with everybody just laughing
Well, that
at
might
him.
also be a space program. He might just be like, I'll just leave these bitches to die.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is going to go to Area 51 by himself, and we're going to see him fly away with the fuck aliens to be like, Elon!
I'm starting a new planet, you assholes.
I want to see what their mouths look like.
See you later. Divorce will be cheaper over there for him on fucking planet Venus, where he doesn't have the same laws.
He's going to look at this flat Earth and just be like, damn it.
This flat fucking Earth.
Flat Earth.
That's another weird phenomenon in this world that people now, with the dissemination of information, you can convince people of some wacky shit.
Yeah.
Like,
it's scary. It's scary. I've gone down the flat Earth rabbit hole. Like, it is extremely interesting and scary at the same time. When you start watching YouTube videos of flat earthers giving dissertations on why it's flat, you're like, what's your science background? GED. Okay. Well,
you're probably not going to figure this out. 35 million likes on Instagram.
Hold on.
Are you serious?
I'm super pro that because they beat out the Kardashian and the egg has it. And I would prefer to look at the egg.
Most liked photo on Instagram.
Pretty awesome.
What came first, hope. The ass or the egg? And the egg wins.
Yeah.
The egg is always first.
What do the flat earthers say when you just show them a video of like, a spaceship orbiting the Earth?
It's all
CGI.
doctored.
It's all doctored.
Yeah. Literally everything
Okay.
from the beginning. It's a grand conspiracy that every person
but
that's
I
worked
think-
for NASA, every astronaut, everybody's in on.
I believe a high percentage of this goes to the attention thing. Like social media has transformed our culture now into this. I need the likes, the comments. So now people are taking stances just to get people to argue with them. So they have that interaction on their phones when they open up the apps.
I think it's attention, but I also think it's ego, because the ego only knows itself in relative position, right? So when the ego gets to put itself above somebody, it feels fucking good. So if you know the truth that the earth is flat and everybody's a fucking round earther, everybody's a fucking orber, or whatever they call it. Orbers. The fucking orber.
Hey, bro, fucking orber.
Fucking orber, bro.
Suck on these round things, dude, because this is flat.
Yeah. So then you get to shit on everybody a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So we're always looking for that one thing that we may know, that fundamental truth or that identification or that victimhood or whatever thing that we can say, well, you're privileged or you're a fucking orber or you're a this. And that makes my ego just a little bit better than yours. And then we can puff ourselves up and we realize it's all bullshit. We're just changing the narrative of the game so that we can be a little bit ahead in something.
And a lot of this, I think, is based on laziness too, because it's people that want some type of significant information for some type of ego advantage, but they don't necessarily want to go get a PhD to get it. They want to listen to another person on YouTube, watch about 30 minutes, be convinced, then go out and talk to everybody else and regurgitate somebody else's thought. But they don't have 12 years studying the actual science behind it, doing, research and evaluation. They don't want that. They definitely won't want to do that because that's all built on an institution of lies, right? So, but the one guy in the Indiana Jones hat, he's the guy that's telling you the fucking truth on YouTube. He's the guy.
It's video games are doing this.
So it's like ego and laziness combined to make something really special on the internet.
But then everything gets fucked when actually sometimes the guy in the Indiana Jones hat is actually right. Like Graham Hancock was that guy where he's like, no, man, the fucking pyramids are older and there's some older civilizations. And then everybody's like, fuck you, Graham, fucking Indiana Jones, piece of shit. And then they're like, discover Göbekli Tepe and like these other 12,000-year-old civilizations. They're like, whoops, sorry, the Indiana Jones hat guy was right, actually, all
No,
along.
I say video games have to do with it because I think they are what it's doing. And I saw this when I was teaching in the military. I saw the changeover at around late 2010, 2011, where we saw the kids that were not outdoor kids that were raised by an Xbox, and you saw the change in their behavior. And when you have a child that from the time he's 8 years old playing video games and he has this false sense of accomplishment, like you beat a video game, you have this, I won.
You're a
But
level
what did
50
you do?
warlord.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
warlord,
nothing.
you're
That doesn't
fucking
exist.
crushing.
You live inside this digital world. So they have this inflated ego and this inflated accomplishment, like exactly what he said. You could go to school and get a PhD, but no, why would I need to do that? I'm already a winner over
and
here.
I would agree with you because that's a good example in Graham Hancock, but he's one example where he spent his entire life.
He totally dedicated his life.
Entire life to this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Egyptologists or any person within that field would be a little bit remiss not to listen to what he had to say.
Right.
Because now you're blocking out information based on ego again. So you're providing a higher level on my PhD, and you're blocking out a man that's essentially dedicated his entire life to the study of these things
and thinking outside the box. We're seeing that in healthcare too, where like some people just want to trust anybody with an MD behind their name, and then there's other people who are just wickedly smart that are talking about things like Rob Wolf, where you're like, yeah, actually, metabolic health, like we should listen to that dude.
Right.
And Dom D'Agostino, yeah, we should listen to that dude. And we should start listening to some other people here outside of what's in the institution of education, which has been vetted and maneuvered and shifted for been around for 40 years, and shit evolves. So it's an interesting world where we have access to everything, but we have to have our own discretion to kind of figure out what's real and what's bunk.
smashing paradigms. I think that's one of those things that I think in that circumstance, those are good. When you can kind of, and Graham has taken it on the chin. in a big way for decades from the entire institution. That guy's taken it on the chin, but he brings up massively important points. Did you read his last book?
Magicians of the Gods? Yeah. Incredible.
His next one, or his last one, was on South America. So the advanced civilizations in South America and how they were building pyramids, and extremely interesting. But now, because the Amazon is essentially being cut down, they're finding that these civilizations were so much more advanced and so much bigger. And now science has to come back, essentially the institution has to come back and reset their theories, but it resets it more in line with what he's been talking about for 2 decades, right? So perfect example, smash the paradigms, but you have to be prepared to take it on the chin.
Everybody
you really
does. It's even like the doctor who tried to explain that ulcers were caused by the bacteria, right? Like he actually had to drink the bacteria that caused the ulcers for anybody in science to believe him. He's like, listen, he's like, I know that this causes ulcers. I'm going to have to fucking drink. And like nobody believed him. He's like, fuck you guys. I'm going to drink this and watch what happens to my stomach. And everybody's like, oh, wow. You created ulcers in yourself. He's like, see? Oh, fuck. You know, but like
medicine.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's a pioneer in that way is going to get shit on in a lot of ways. When I started talking about ayahuasca and plant medicine 10 years ago, every post, or 8 years ago, whatever, every post I made, everybody would be like, fucking druggy. I could be like talking about working out in the gym or an MMA fight and like, nice fucking opinion, you fucking druggy. What are you, high on ayahuasca? I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. I just sip ayahuasca as I watch UFC fights. That's a fucking, that sounds
Never
fun.
tried that, but it sounds kind of fun.
I'd recommend not. You want to shit your pants
2019,
during a
everybody's
knockout.
tolerant now.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
Did you say 2018?
2019.
Okay, I was like, do you know what year
I
it
didn't,
is?
didn't lose a year.
Do you know what year it is?
He lost a year.
Well, you do have a Wiener Schnitzel sponsorship, which is like one of the most impressive
contractually
accolades.
obliged to mention Wiener Schnitzel. I'm part of the Wiener fam.
Yeah.
Nice.
Matt, tell us some fucking stories that are in this book, man, because I haven't got a chance to read it yet, but you got to have some good shit in
You know,
here.
it's funny. You were talking about trusting doctors or not trusting. You have to have your own kind of idea. In this book, I write it completely different than any other military book out there, but I got, they told me I had spider bites in Ranger School in Florida phase. And I'm like, bro, to the PA, this is not a fucking spider bite. It started boiling all over my skin. And I go in depth in the book, obviously, about it. But I'm like, motherfucker, it's not a spider bite. And he was, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. Well, it came to be found out later that it was bullous impetigo, which is a flesh-eating bacteria that I had. Whoa. And I was like, almost fucking gonna go down with how bad it is. I mean, I had a sore that was probably 4 inches by 4 inches on my hip where my rucksack would rub. Man, it was fucking terrible.
You
but
got MRSA from it, didn't you?
No, I didn't get MRSA. But it was just bullous impetigo as a whole. I suggest not to Google it unless you got a thick
STD
stomach.
though, right?
No, no. I think chlamydia would have been better, to be honest with you.
Flesh-eating virus.
Chlamydia would have been better.
Well, I know. Okay.
Don't
talk about
if
that
you
story.
haven't got chlamydia at least once, you
Thanks,
are
random
trying
girl
hard
in Denver,
enough.
Colorado in 2009. Appreciate you. Thank you for your service. Yeah. No, I mean, I really took an attempt here to bring my creativity and my storytelling and put that with a bunch of crazy experiences I've had through war, contracting, and then business. And I'm just really excited for it to be told because I think a lot of people have that Hollywood perspective on war. They romanticize it. And I kind of get into the weeds about this where, you know, there's a story in there about a fucking dude that blew himself up right in front of me. And it's my goal to go find his arm to try to identify him. And I'm telling it in such a humorous way where like, the only thing I want to do is get back to base so I can get fucking arm day done, you know? But I got to go find this asshole who just tried to kill me arm. And of course, when I find it, I'm going to troll my teammates and wave to them and use the hand in different manipulations. And it's super dark. But when you read it, I think it gives a new healthy perspective about men and women that are, 18, 19, 20 that are serving in war zones and kind of the crazy shit they have to go through. And that kind of segues in the book about my mission as far as supporting transition out of the military and creating an ecosystem, a support system for those veterans. So they know there's other guys out there that have similar experiences and we can all band together and laugh about them and live a quality life post-war. And I really hope it changes the perspective of a lot of civilians that think either war is like lone survivor in the movies or they think it's, every veteran is just, fucked up because it's not the case, man.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, if you've watched Matt's content over the past 5 years, the book does a really good job of capturing the total voice. When you look at Matt and I'll be as objective as I can, obviously. But when you look at Matt, he's a very diverse individual with a lot of skill sets. And he can be very serious, very committed in a very authentic way about a cause that he believes in. So he's committed to the veteran subculture. He's committed to his family. He's committed to his community. But we always joke around. We talk about he's the base salt, right? He makes everything better. But he's also extremely talented, loves music, and he loves to edit, and he's very funny. So if you look at the way that the content has been over the last 5 years, you'll have very serious content that's committed specifically to events, whether it's Veterans Day or Memorial Day or causes he believes in. And then you've got really dark, super funny pieces of content. So the book essentially is a written version of his life in the same type of content, full spectrum. It's just another way I think that he can show or showcase talent. Like I said, I'm trying to be as objective as possible with him sitting right here. But from an outsider reading it, that I've known Matt, I consider him my best friend. I was surprised because it's really well written. And when I say that, I'm not surprised.
No, that is a surprise. Trust me, I know.
No, it's
Thanks,
not.
Nils Parker.
Yeah, totally.
But you had a really proactive. That's not something that you can just dedicate, a tenth of a percent to and make it good.
Yeah.
Like you really have to go.
You got to send it.
You got to send it. And when I would say I was surprised because it met and exceeded an expectation. So it's another way for people, I think, to pull pieces of the brand, the things that he's made in the last 5 years, be tied to it, laugh, and get a really intimate tie and look into a veteran, specifically a special operations veterans behind the scenes or their life. But it's not written from the point of view of, I came from this unit, we're the baddest motherfuckers on the planet, all we do is just go around and kick people in the face. It's written from the perspective of, I'm just a dude, this is what I chose to do. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun, and it was pretty funny and pretty dark.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I will say, maybe you'll resonate with this, Aubrey, where it was actually freeing and one of the most challenging experiences I've ever had, because I talked about some of the worst times in my life, and I talk about them in extent. And so I had to relive those experiences. And 32-year-old Matt judges the actions sometimes of 22, 23-year-old Matt.
Course.
And it was fucking challenging because, especially, I'm married to my wife and having her read threesome stories in Los Angeles and stuff. But I'm like, she's very well put together on that side. But I'm like, I'm just going to put it all out there and be hyper transparent and just own who I am. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to take that risk to say, this is me for better or for worse, and I tried to do that, and I'm excited and absolutely fucking terrified in the same stance.
It's ultimately so liberating, and that process becomes addictive to a certain degree. Like the more transparent and vulnerable you are, the more you realize that people just appreciate it. And then you're like, oh, well, there's more secrets that I have that don't need to be secrets because everybody else has their own shit too. Like, let's all just fucking talk about the shit that's real, that's going on.
It gives me fucking chills. Like this last Memorial Day, I really try to put out a moving piece every year. And I was thinking, and I had a friend pass away, one of my best friends. He's in a separate unit from me. And I made every excuse at the time not to go to his fucking funeral. I was like, I got a deployment coming up. And I knew it meant the world for him. He late him to show up. I didn't go. And so I used kind of art as to vent creatively and make a video about like, I'm fucking sorry, dude. Like I should have gone. I should have been there. I should have supported your family because his wife was best friends with me and I fucking did it. I was a coward. But when you relive those experiences and understand that like I can be better than that going forward now, and kind of getting it off my chest is a very healing moment for me. And that's something I think art and just all of this has kind of really helped save my life, is say, man, I can just be who I am and vent and have my fucking mistakes, because I'm not perfect. I'm a shithead half the time.
Nobody
and I'm
is
crazy,
And that's the beautiful thing about it. Like anybody projecting perfection is doing everyone, including themselves, a disservice.
Fair.
Because we're all fucked up. We've all fucked up and done stupid shit. And like, I can look back, I just transitioned out of my relationship with Whitney, and I can look back and be like, what a fucking idiot. Like through so many situations, like I wish I could have done better. And I've told her that a million times, like, I just wish I could have done that better, but I couldn't. If I could have, I would have. I did the best I could at the time, but that now, from my perspective, like, yeah, that was fucking bad. You know, that was dumb, but that was the best I got then. And at least when you can open up and talk about it, then that actually allows that thing to heal.
Yeah, and I think that's something people often forget, that you're not defined by your failures. They're merely guidelines, right? Every mistake and misstep you've made is a guideline to a better version of you. And I was on Andy's thing, and goes, do you have any regrets? And I really can't say at this moment, other than not penning Shamu when I was like 4. I fucking lived that nightmare every day. Shamu. But like all those experiences, like I can't fucking change it, man. I'm here today. I can only change the path forward.
I had tickets to see Harambe.
Really?
Yep.
You really had tickets to see Harambe?
No, I don't even know.
It's like, what?
Do you have Harambe tickets?
What was your guy? All right, so we'll be wrapping this thing up here, but I want to. What has been your most challenging mission? This could be in the service. This could be in life. This could be in business. If you had to say, like, what was the thing that's been the hardest for each of you? The hardest mission you've had to accomplish. Or maybe you're still working on.
Mine definitely was. Well, there's 2. Probably now defining what the path forward is. I think that's a constant struggle within all of us, you know, because there's social expectations of who I should be going forward. But as long as you stay true to yourself, I think I'll figure that one out. And then mine, which is a lot in the book, shameless plug, thank you for my service, was getting out of the military, because I had defined myself at such a young age that I was a ranger, I was this guy, and then one day it was all gone. And so it was a learning lesson, because everything I thought who I was and defined myself by didn't exist anymore. And that was absolutely terrifying and challenging. But I don't think I'd be the guy I am today if I didn't go through that struggle.
Well, the hardest struggles often create the greatest adaptations.
For sure.
I mean, that's really a truism. There had to be dark moments from then, though, when you're transitioning, right? I mean, probably some of your darkest.
Oh, yeah.
life.
I was a raging alcoholic. I was a fucking asshole. I would punch everybody in the face at the bar out of my own ego and insecurities. I was a shithead for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the path forward.
I would say just navigating like the different positions that we've been thrown into in the last six years. It's different. You go from being a military person full time to now being in a public eye, being in, you know, now getting, you know, our company gets bigger and everything like that. And we see things constantly change, friendships end, you know, things like that of just going through this whole thing, you know, has been pretty challenging. Like, you know, when you used to just be able to snap off and say something back when somebody says something to you, now it's like, now you have to maintain a level of, oh, I'm representing the brand, the company, this, and it's just been kind of weird. Like
navigating, you know, changing landscape,
ending a relationship, and 1,000 people want to weigh in with their comments on it that
trust me,
you've got to read. And it's just like, whoa, this is different now. Life's different.
I mean, you did publicly announce a marriage, so you kind of fished for that one. I'm just kidding.
I wasn't representing that.
I know. I'm just they're making it light again.
Yeah.
Everybody take a research on that one. Take a look. It's a good story. I like that story. We'll let it be an Easter egg for everybody who wants to research
weird because
fucking marriage scenario.
I think people still are kind of used to the old way where it was like you could say whatever you want about somebody that's in the news or popular or something like that, and you're never going to hear from them. But it's like, I don't think they realize how active we are in this community. So it's like when someone talks trash about one of us, it's like, wait, what? Why?
Yeah, totally.
The hell did we do?
Yeah.
A lot.
You know, I think for me, I've always tried to figure out ways and looking at individual mission statements, writing individual mission statements. I've done it for a decade. You know, what is my mission here? What am I trying to accomplish? I wrote a mission statement for Black Rifle Coffee and for myself, actually, which was to transition out of government service and to live a happy and fulfilling life. And so when I wrote that in a notebook 5.5 years ago, what does that mean, right? So when you're trying to define what happy and fulfilling, when those 2 words actually go into action, what are the actions that represent that? And then how do you shut off the actions that don't represent that? And you have to continue to execute on different things in order to actually define for yourself and really understand what happiness feels like. if you don't necessarily know what it feels like, and or you think you know what it feels like, then you've got to try several different things. For me, the two biggest buckets of my life that constitute most of my time are the business and my family. And so for me, when I focus on being a good father, it's not necessarily just love, because I love my children infinitely, and my wife is fantastic. But to be a great father, and to emphasize and curate talents that ultimately define how they will see greatness and what they hold value in. It's not about me, right?
Yeah.
It's about them. So I have to constantly chop the things away that I'm trying in order to emphasize the real value propositions within their lives. What's going to curate the greatest experience and give them the greatest amount of wisdom and knowledge that I can impart. That is, that's the beast that I wrestle every day. The business, it's the same way. How do we continue to emphasize and grow with positivity and love and curate an incredible ecosystem with positive people? And well, you have to try. And that constitutes a lot of work and a lot of energy, and you have to come to terms with some of that energy is going to be misallocated, but you continue to have to refine it and keep chopping and focusing on the things that really yield you the greatest amount of return.
Yeah, when you have to name your own mission. I mean, that was the first thing that you came up with when you're in the service. Like, you got the mission. The mission is, kind of comes down from the top. You know what it is, and then you have the divisions of labor, and everybody has the submissions within the mission, all collectively going towards the same mission. Whether you agree with it or not is not even your choice anymore at that thing. You're part of the thing, and then you get out, or like most of us, and it really becomes like, well, I got to define my own mission. Like, what am I here for? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? What is happening? What is the goal of all of this? And that's, you guys have how many years collectively of war zone experience?
Well, we'd
15,
have to
2010,
add that up.
35.
How many for you?
I have something like 19 months deployed as a ranger, but then I don't even know how much contractor, probably 3 to 4 years on the ground there.
All right, it's like 5, 6. How many you got?
19 months on Iraq.
Yeah. All right, you got
7 years.
Okay, so well over a dozen years and more. And I asked you guys what your most challenging mission was, what your most challenging thing was, and none of you said anything having to do with war. And that's the fucking thing. Like, everybody thinking that, what I'm going through is nothing compared to what this person. Well, actually, all of the things that the most challenging for all of you guys who've been in some of the actual most challenging circumstances in a lot of ways, war, I mean, doesn't get more fucking challenging than that. But really, the deep challenges that you've felt internally have all been existential. Of course. Have all been like, how do I navigate life? Not like, how do I accomplish this really scary thing that I have to do they're just well defined. Like that angst, that anxiety, that wondering, that questioning, that setting up your own goals and figuring it out and failing and learning and all that, that's all real shit. And I think this just kind of really proves that point, sitting around at the table here. And for everybody listening, like, your shit, don't discredit it. It's hard. It's hard out there.
That's why I have it tattooed on me, the Master of Fate, Captain of Your Soul. And I think when we talked earlier, and I'll make it quick, but about a lot of people miss war. It's this crazy psychological thing, and it's actually not missing the war, but it was that communal aspect of it. And I didn't realize till later in life that that's what I was searching for this whole entire time, was guys like this, guys like you that we can get along with. And it wasn't handed to me. I was provided the opportunity through technology and hard work, but it was up to me to fucking get it and go grab it through grit and pure fucking work ethic. And that's what I did. And I found myself so much more happy in understanding what really true success is, which is happiness to me. So you got to go get it.
Got to go get it. Got to figure out what that is. Know yourself and find other people. And to know yourself, share the truth of yourself, because that's the only way that you're going to attract the people that are actually like you, right? So the formula is, all right, be comfortable with who you are, eliminate all that shame, no matter what. Like, don't be ashamed of your truth, and then share your truth and hold that up as a beacon that will attract other people who have a similar truth. And then guess what? That you find yourself in a community, but it comes with that honest expression of who you are, and then being willing to open up about that. And then you find other people like, hey, that seems familiar. Like, I'm fucking same as you. And then you form a real, genuine community around that. And that's absolutely what I've found as well.
Yeah, if everybody around you disagrees with your personal preference, you're just in the wrong bubble, man. Pop the bubble, go find the bubble that you can get along with. And I mean, America's huge and diverse. Just find the people that think like you and build a community around it.
Yeah.
It's hard, but
no doubt. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, coffee. And MCT oil creamer, the first mocha that Onnit has ever done.
First mocha. I don't know what, I mean, this is like we were holding out on mocha for something good because mocha is the obvious flavor for an emulsified MCT oil, but I'm glad we did it with you guys because it's our best flavor.
Super amped.
We got some good ones, but this is actually our best. You know, it's like picking a child. You know, I probably shouldn't, but this is our best. It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Fuck yeah.
Well, I fucking appreciate you guys. The book, Thank You for My Service. We got Fuck Yeah Coffee, MCT oil. We got Drinking Bros, which is awesome, and Black Rifle Coffee. I saw I'll tell you a story about that. I went over to my stepdad's house, and he was on the SWAT team in Compton for a while. And so not military. Well, he was in the Air Force for a little bit, but he just tells stories about smoking hash on this like nuclear base. So he wasn't really doing much.
That's awesome.
But like, so I go over there and he's got this whole fucking pantry full of Black Rifle coffee. And I was like, how do you know these guys? He's like, I don't know. I just, saw something. And he vibed with it. I think it was him because he's always got a great sense of humor. He was on my podcast. Anybody who listened to that story about him doing ayahuasca, it's one of the funniest podcasts I've ever done. But it's the same thing, SWAT team, gnarly shit, great sense of humor. And that's the way you make it through. And I think he vibed with that message just as much as anybody else did. It was like, so he just bought all the coffee. And I was like, fuck yeah.
And now you're drinking
fuck yeah. I'm really drinking fuck yeah.
That's awesome.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's cool to see. Well, thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you so much for having us on. It was a blast always, man.
Yeah, that was a super good time. Much love, everybody. Peace.